All right, what's up, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and it's good to be back on live. I haven't been on live in over a week. Okay, I haven't been on live. I don't believe I've been on live since Jesus. I mean, I've done a couple of breakdowns recently, but it's been a minute. It feels like it's been a minute, probably at least a week. All right, and we have a lot to discuss today, but I don't want to discuss everything because I want to do another live. I definitely want to go on live again and discuss some of the other news that's been going around in boxing. Shout out to Orgasmatron that was sitting here waiting. What's good with you? What's up, Story Man Boxing? What's going on with you, man? Good to see you in the chat. Good channel you got there. All right, so let's talk about this weekend first. Before we get into all of the nonsense that's going on in the sport, there's a lot of big news for 2023, but you know, let's get into this weekend, which fortunately for you guys, I will be doing commentary for the entire day on Saturday, right? I cleared out everything Saturday for boxing because I feel like I haven't done commentary in a minute. All right, so Saturday I'm all the way good. I have no plans, and I'll be able to cover all of the fights this upcoming Saturday. And we have some good fights coming on Saturday. So we have a DAZN card with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte is going to be fighting Jermaine Franklin. All right. And I will have that breakdown or that prediction video. I'm going to just do a quick prediction video. I'm not going to do a long, breakdown or anything like that, but I'll probably put that out probably later this evening. Okay. Dillian Whyte and Jermaine Franklin is going to fight on DAZN this Saturday earlier in the afternoon. So I will go live for that. And then later on in the evening, you have a Fight TV pay-per-view between what's his name, Regis Prograis and Jose Cepeda. All right. That fight is also going down this weekend. And we also have Zach Parker against John Ryder. All right. And I did a breakdown for that fight. I did a breakdown for Regis Prograis against Jose Cepeda, and the Dillian Whyte breakdown will be coming out later this evening. So be on the lookout for that. All right. All good fights, very, very good fights. I'm really looking forward to the Parker John Ryder fight because I don't really know how good Parker is, but he looks really good, and I think, John Ryder is pretty much proven, even though I don't think he beat Danny Jacobs. I still rate him pretty good. And you got Prograis, who's probably my favorite guy at 140. I'm glad to see him back fighting a top-tier junior welterweight in Jose Cepeda. All right, so I'm looking forward to that. And Dillian Whyte, the return of Dillian Whyte. It's been we haven't seen him since April, I believe, against Tyson Fury, where he was knocked out by an uppercut. And we're going to see him against a solid opponent, a solid up-and-coming guy in Jermaine Franklin of America heavyweight, probably a top 5 American prospect. Oh, snap, look. The ambulance is following me up here. I don't live in a city no more, but you still hear the noise every now and then. I think this is the first time I probably was live where you guys heard it. All right, so shout out to everyone that's in the chat room. Orgasmatron, Stormy, B-Man, Brendan, Jackson, Linda, Ralph. What's up, Gage? What's up, Carlos Mendoza? What's up, everyone in the chat? Everyone that's viewing the video, please smash that thumbs up for me if you can. All right, let's go into some boxing news because we got a lot, man. And I'm definitely not going to be able to cover everything. What's up, Simone? I'm definitely not going to be covering everything here because I have a long list of stuff that I want to cover, but I want to save some for either a video for later or maybe tomorrow morning when I jump back on live. All right, but let's get through it. And I guess we should start with let's start with 175. Let's start out with 175 and Anthony Yarde against Beterbiev. Okay. Now, Yarde had a fight the other day, and I was able to go back and watch the fight. I totally forgot he was fighting on this undercard the other night, but I was able to go back and find it on the on YouTube or somewhere, and I did watch the fight. And, this is a journeyman fight. It's not like Yarde was fighting no top tier guy. We haven't seen Yarde in the ring since he fought Lyndon Arthur in the rematch where he stopped Lyndon Arthur. All right. So let's just pull this up real quick. Yeah. Wait, I'm on the wrong one here. All right. So yeah, he fights Lyndon Arthur. He beats Lyndon Arthur in a rematch. And this is the first time we've seen him in the ring. And we know that he's already the mandatory for Arthur Beterbiev. All right. And Arthur is three belt title holder. He's the lineal champion of the division. You know what I'm saying? So he's really, the top dude as far as belts and stuff like that. So I watched this fight the other day against Stefani Koikov. Right? That's his name. I wanted to see his name. He fights Koikov. He hasn't fought since December. He destroyed this guy. Like, we know he's going to destroy this guy because he pretty much destroys everybody that's not top tier. He's pretty much done that since the beginning. His whole career is based on him destroying guys. Don't really have an amateur background. Didn't have many fights as an amateur. But he came in, he's freakishly athletic, and he's fun to watch. He was stopping all of these guys. You look up his resume, a bunch of guys like 5-38, 3-10, 2-15, 5-13. These guys are bad. He was fighting a lot of guys that were pretty much journeymen, and then he fought a couple decent guys at some point. But at the end of the day, Yarde wasn't fighting many guys, many good fighters. But he got the Kovalev fight. And it was a very good fight, but he got stopped in the 11th round. Very good fight. Had his moments. He almost ended up stopping Kovalev at one point in that fight, but he got stopped, right? And then, he goes on. He takes a couple of tune-ups. I don't even know if you want to call them tune-ups because he beat up a dude that's 4-48, after losing to Kovalev. And then he has a couple of tune-ups again, right? Fights Dex Bellman. I remember watching that fight. And then he fights Lyndon Arthur in a fight that he loses a split decision. All right. And I think he lost the fight. I think he just took too long to get it going. And I think that has to do with honestly has to do with just lack of experience. You lose to Kovalev where you kind of got burnt out. So you kind of want to pace yourself. It's a mental thing. You want to pace yourself. You're the stronger fighter. You can fight an aggressive fight, and you find a guy with a good jab, and you want to just pace yourself. And he ended up losing because he gave too many rounds away. I remember watching it, and that was that. So he has his tune-up again, and then he has a couple of them. Then he has one tune-up, fights Lyndon Arthur, right, in 2021, late last year, a year ago. And he stops him, right? Destroys him. He blows him away. He makes it look like the first fight never happened. And now he's on to Arthur Beterbiev in January of 2023. And I think it was honestly a good idea to have a tune-up because you don't want to go a whole year and then go straight into fighting Arthur Beterbiev. You just don't want to do it. Shout out to Captain Crochet. What's up? My man is in the building. Thank you. Appreciate it. I finally got this. This is what I envision my show, podcast on my channel, or whatever you want to call it. I've always wanted it to look this way. So, shout out to the people that's been here from the very beginning. See me doing videos on my couch for years, but I've done it in different spaces. I've done it in my dad's place. I've done them outside. I've done so many videos in different locations, but I've always wanted something a little bit more chill, a little station. And I'm going to continue to grow on the channel and, upgrade certain things. You know what I'm saying? The presentation, that's next. So, but at the end of the day, outside of the look, I've always wanted to just give you quality, very, very quality content. At the end of the day, that's most important. A lot of people have great presentations of great podcast studios and their content is garbage. You guys know that. So, some people are very good editors, but the content is not that good. So it never was really a priority for me to just like upgrade the looks or everything. But now I was really like, I have moved and I was like, you know what, I want to upgrade the looks on everything. I want to give it a more professional look and stuff like that. And I've come to do that. All right. But shout out to the people that's been leaving comments. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys love the look, and I hope you guys continue to love the content, because that's what's important. All right. Yeah, sorry, no more Dragon Ball Z and anime bricks in the background. But it's all good. Yeah, I still live in New York. I'm still, let's say, I'm not far, but I'm not in Harlem anymore, but I'm still very close. All right. Anyway, yeah, and I don't want to give my location because there's some really creepy people on the internet. It's some really creepy people. They know who I'm talking about. Anyway, so let's talk about Arthur Beterbiev's fight the other day. Now, I know he's fighting a journeyman. He's fighting this guy. He's 14-1. But it's, when I looked at his resume the other day, I see that he got like knocked out by this guy that was like 1-3 that went off to do like really nothing, So with that being said, I didn't think the guy was special, but I like the fact that the guy wasn't fearful. Like, I watched it and I was like, okay, this guy is at least coming. He's bringing the fight straight to Yarde, which is cool, right? No, much closer than Jersey. I'm still in New York. I'm still in New York. I'm just not in Jersey. So what I liked in what I've seen in Yarde in this fight is his improved defense. I think that was the one thing that stood out. We already know offensively how gifted he is. We already know that he has power, and we know that he has speed, right? But I noticed a difference in defense right away. All right. I was watching the fight, just certain blocks, just certain movements. He's polished his defense a little better, and he needs to. You can see that whatever he worked on leading up to the Beterbiev fight, because remember, this fight was already rescheduled. This fight was supposed to happen, but Beterbiev suffered an injury, which is usually the case before a fight. Seems like every Beterbiev fight is rescheduled because of some kind of illness or injury or something like that. So I like the fact that he has improved defense. And I've told you guys before, I thought that Yarde, even before this fight, I thought that Yarde had a much better chance in beating Beterbiev than Marcus Brown and Joe Smith Jr. And I explained this in a recent live that I did. All right. Looking at what's his name? Joe Smith. So we're on Beterbiev's box rec right now. And when you look at Marcus Brown, that's my guy. That's my boy. As much as skillful as he is, I feel like he's very defensive. I think he was a little too defensive in the fight. I think he boxed well, but he didn't throw anything that would keep Beterbiev away from him, And I think part of the reason is because Marcus doesn't have the best chin. You're fighting a guy who has probably pound for pound one of the strongest top 5 punchers in the sport in Arthur Beterbiev. Marcus did very well defensively and movement and just staying out of the way of those big shots, but he eventually got broken down. And then you have Joe Smith Jr., who was too offensive and too reckless defensively. There was none there. I mean, he's never been a defensive fighter. And he walked in there and he got destroyed, Arthur in that fight took the same approach that he did in the Callum Johnson fight, where he allowed Callum Johnson to come straight at him. He allowed them. He invited him in. And you notice that was the first time we saw Beterbiev actually box. Like, I'm just going to use the ring. I'm going to set up my shots. I'm going to set traps and let you walk into these punches. And that's exactly what happened with, every time I see Beterbiev, every time I see this picture, This is the most evil face that you can have. This face right here. This is probably one of the most hilarious box rec photos because this guy looks crazy in this picture. And you know what? When they interview him, he's like a gentleman. He's the nicest guy. But whenever I look at this picture right here, that tells me the full picture, the full picture of this guy. You know, this guy is evil as hell when he's in the ring. He's dangerous. But I like Yarde. I just Brendan said it exactly right before I said it. He said in the chat. Brendan Jackson says Yarde has the tools, just not the experience. And that is the one issue, the one concern I have with Yarde. Maybe the losses to Arthur and Kovalev will gear him up right for this fight. And hopefully by this point, it's enough for him, you know, for his sake, because I am rooting for him. I actually rooted against Beterbiev the last two fights. I wanted Marcus Brown to win because that's my guy. I wanted Joe Smith Jr. to win because he's the New Yorker, you know, and I was having that New York bias. I went to the fight and I was rooting for Joe Smith. You know, he's a Long Island guy. Marcus Brown is for Staten Island. And I want Anthony Yarde to win because I'm just a fan of him. I'm more of a fan of Anthony Yarde. But I feel like Beterbiev is beating up all my guys, you know, and he's good. You know, I don't think I picked any of these guys to actually beat Beterbiev, but I think Anthony Yarde brings a little bit more balance. And this was my point from before by bringing up Brown and Joe Smith Jr. I don't think Brown has, you know, I don't know if Yarde, I don't believe Yarde has the defensive skills overall as Marcus Brown. I don't believe that he is, you know, he might, I don't know, you know, as far as power is concerned, I don't know. I think Joe Smith Jr. has proven to be more of a puncher, the bigger puncher. But Anthony Yarde has power. He has speed. He has a better defense than Joe Smith. He's just not going to just be walking in recklessly. And I think Joe Smith is his biggest issue is he has a jab right hand, jab right hand, jab right hand. You know, he's coming in wailing, you know, flinging like, you know, looping shots and hooks, and he's just always in a position to get countered. If you watch the fight, and I've gone back to the fight a couple of times recently, if you look at the fight, Joe Smith was always in the position to get countered, you know, and that's the problem. You got two punchers, but you got one that's crazy experience, guy that beaten Kovalev in the amateurs more than once. And then you got a guy, you know, that is just recklessly aggressive in Joe Smith Jr. and Anthony Yarde, who is aggressive, but he's smarter than Joe Smith Jr. And I think he's willing to let his hands go more than Marcus Brown. All right. And I think he has a better chin. He's proved in the Kovalev fight his toughness in that fight. You know, how many jabs did he eat in that fight before he went down? And I think a lot of the reason why he was stopped in that fight was mainly because he was gassed. He was extremely gassed in that fight. So hopefully, you know, with Yarde, you know, hopefully it's the right time. You know, Beterbiev is coming off of another injury. Don't know his date of birth, but I know that he's probably pushing 38. He's 37 now. At least they have him listed here at 37. Let me just pull up his date of birth real quick. All right, so he'll be 38 around the time the fight goes down. Yeah, he'll be 38 in January. All right, and the fight is on the 28th. So he'll be 38 by then. All right. So I love the fight. I'm excited for the fight. I do believe that Yarde has the best chance of beating Beterbiev since Rosdick fought him. All right. I think he's going to be a lot more aggressive. And I don't think, I think Beterbiev is going to take the same approach that he's taken with Joe Smith and against Callum Johnson, because he won't really have to go looking for Anthony Yarde. Yarde is going to be there in his face, you know, unless Yarde gets hurt and then he's forced to retreat a little bit and fight off the back foot, which we can see he can do. Right, but he's definitely improved in his defense, and I'm looking forward to the fight. And I just want all of this stuff to come to, honestly, I really just want undisputed, and I want that with every division. But in the meantime, this is a quality fight. I hope the winner is able to fight Bivol. I hope that works out. I know Canelo announced the other day that he's going to be returning, and he's going to be taking a fight in May, and he's looking to fight someone. He's looking to fight Bivol in the rematch in the second half of the year. All right. And I know Canelo wants that, and I know a lot of people, there's a lot of money in the Canelo fight, but I hope that if there's an opportunity that these two, whoever is the winner of this fight between Yarde and Beterbiev, I hope that the priority is undisputed. If there's an opportunity to fight for undisputed, I hope Canelo doesn't come in the way of that. You know what I'm saying? I hope that doesn't happen. I know Canelo is the star, and I know he's going to bring the most money. But as a fight fan, I would like to see Bivol and Beterbiev or Yarde fight each other. I know Callum Smith is also like a mandatory as well. All right. And I know they've been pushing to order that. So I know there's a lot going on with the sanctioning bodies, and it seems like the sanctioning bodies is really getting away in some of these divisions. But others, the promoters are getting in the way. But I feel like in this division, I think it's mainly the sanctioning bodies and stuff like that. All right. And Canelo a little bit, because Canelo could kind of dip into the division and dip back down to 168. But what Canelo did with Bivol was solid. Like, I give him credit for trying to go up there and beat him at his weight and not bringing him back down to 168. I thought that was cool. I like that. I like that he didn't take the same route he did with Kovalev. So I do give him, even though he lost the fight, clearly. And I personally am not interested in a rematch. I do respect for Canelo for going up to 175 instead of pulling Bivol down, even though Bivol agreed to come down. I wanted the fight to be at 175. All right. So anyway, let me get on to the next topic here. Give me 1 second. So I have like a new computer, so I'm working on a lot of things here. Because once you get a new computer, you gotta like start everything over. Like the software that I was using before to make videos, I can't use it for this computer, because they didn't update it. And it's just starting to get things all set up to create content. So it's a little annoying, but let's go on to the next topic I had. I know you guys are leaving a lot of comments. Just before we get started, I will talk about Hector Garcia. Just give me a moment. I'll get to that. Give me a moment. I just want to get through a few other topics before we get there. Janibek Munguia, I am going to talk about that next. So I know you guys are leaving comments on that. I'm going to talk about that now. All right. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Ryan and Tank and Hector Garcia. I'm going to talk a little bit about Stanionis. All right. And we'll go on from that. Oh, real quick. So the other day, and I believe on my last live, I spoke on this. I just want to just brief through this topic real quick. Teofimo Lopez has been ordered to fight Sandor Martin, right? I think on my last live, maybe I did like a week ago, I brought that up. Now we know Teofimo Lopez was already scheduled to fight Jose Pedraza, all right? A fight that I was okay with, but it wasn't like I was asking for. I just felt like I needed to see a little bit more with Teofimo Lopez before he started fighting the top tier guys at 140. So I was fine with the fight. I know that some of you weren't really fine with that. But with that being said, Sandor Martin was ordered by the WBC. That fight was ordered for a secondary mandatory or something like that, right? And Jose Pedraza is sick, and he pulled out of the fight. So I don't know the details on his illness. I might have read it, might have forgotten it because I did read the article when the news came out. But Teofimo Lopez is now going to fight Sandor Martin on December 10th here in New York. I'm actually just trying to decide if I should go to the fight or not. I might go to the fight, but we'll see. You know, I'm trying to get back in the groove of going back to fights live because normally before the pandemic, I would go to maybe around 4 or 5 fights a year at least. And I miss going to fights, but I want to go back to fights. I want to start going to a fight every 2 to 3 months. You know, was it Pedraza having COVID? Oh, was it COVID? Okay, I thought it was COVID, but I wasn't sure. I kind of forgot. Anyway, I brought this up the other day about Sandor Martin. This is a very good fight. First of all, this is a better fight than a Pedraza fight. This is a real fight for Teofimo Lopez. Now, if he's as good as many of us believed he was at 135, all right, and if that loss to George Kambosos was just some sort of fluke because mentally he was going through a lot of things outside the ring. The fight was rescheduled many, many times. The fight was supposed to happen on ESPN. The Trillim nonsense happened. Then it went to the zone. It was just getting passed around over and over again. I know Tio was sick at some point. He was going through a lot. I know he had a lot of personal issues, and he went into that fight. And I personally believe that him and his father did underestimate George Kambosos. We talked about that plenty of times. Just the the coaching in that fight was terrible. And I think that was part of the reason why he lost the way he did. But Sandor Martin is official. In fact, Sandor Martin beating Mikey Garcia the way that he did, because I thought it was a clear win. I think you couldn't really give Mikey more than 2 or 3 rounds in that fight. I remember watching it live. I haven't gone back, and I will go back because I am going to do a breakdown for that fight. And I do believe that at this point, Teofimo Lopez I would think that at that point that Mikey took that fight, I would rate Teofimo Lopez above Mikey at that stage of his career, But with that being said, Sandor Martin is very, very good technical boxer, southpaw. He's very good. And I can't wait to see this fight. I think this is a better fight than a Jose Pedraza fight. Him beating Mikey Garcia, all right, and looking very, very good and making it very, very easy. I like this fight. I can't wait to see this fight. I'm thinking about going to see this fight. I hope Teofimo is prepared as if this is his toughest challenge to date. He has to go in there focused like this is going to be my toughest challenge to date, because this is a guy that might not have the biggest power. Let me pull him up real quick. But he is a very, very crafty boxer, and you can't sleep on this guy because I actually think this could be a tougher match than George Kambosos. If Tio is not coming in prepared and focused the way he should, he could end up losing this fight. All right, can't wait to start doing film study on this. I will get that done soon, being that this fight is coming up soon. So maybe within the next week or 2, I should be doing a breakdown for this fight. But this is a very, very good fight. And if Tio is not on top of his game, he could lose this fight. Tio is a very good boxer, especially when he's fighting an opponent and he's focused. He did well against Lomachenko. He did well against Richard Comey. Didn't do too well against Nakatani. But before that fight, he was doing well against everybody he boxed. And he has the power to go along with the boxing ability he has. But Sandor Martin is no joke. All right. And, again, not a lot of power, 40 wins, 13 by knockout. All right. Only suffered 2 losses. All right. But he's 29 years old. He's probably in his physical prime right now. He's a southpaw on top of that. Good fight. Don't sleep on the fight. And, if you're in the New York area, definitely think about going. I don't know who's on the undercard, but I'm sure the tickets, I wouldn't expect the tickets for this fight. All right, so they don't have an undercard yet. All right. Looking here on BoxRec, we don't really have an undercard yet, but I think, the tickets shouldn't be that expensive, and I think, if you know, unless I choose to stay home and cover the fight live. I don't know who else is fighting that day, but I might consider really going to the fight. You know, so I might see some of y'all out there if you guys choose to go. I'll let you guys know if I go or not. But you know, me, I usually buy tickets within the a few days before the fight. I gotta see, you know, how my schedule is looking and everything like that. All right. December 3rd is Fury against Chisora 3. All right, and the 10th, Lopez against. Okay, wait, no, we do have another card here. So Jared Anderson is going to be fighting Jerry Forrest. All right, so on BoxRec they haven't updated it yet, but that's a good. I'm probably going to go. Keyshawn Davis is supposed to be fighting Juan Carlos Burgos. Xander Zayas is going to be on. Oh yeah, nah, I think I might go. I think I'm going to this. So, yeah, I don't know when tickets go on sale, but it's only in a few weeks. It's like literally like 3 Saturdays from now. So yeah. Oh, Andrew Smith just said it. I think I want to go. I think Jared Anderson and Keyshawn Davis supposed to be on that card. Yeah, that's a good card. That's a great card, actually. That's a great card. And I think Juan Carlos Burgos would probably be Keyshawn Davis's best name. You know, a really familiar name that's on his resume. So that's a good step up for him. So I'm definitely going to go to see him, Keyshawn, Xander Zayas, Jared Anderson against Jerry Forrest, which would be a step up for Jared Anderson as well. That's a great card right there. So I might consider going, and hopefully I can get some solid tickets on there. All right. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk about 160. I hate this division. I'm going to start off by saying that. I hate this division. You got all this talent on this division. And I was really sitting here thinking about it. You have a lot of talent here. All right, let me pull it up. You have a lot of talent here on this division. And you got a bunch of guys that just would not fight. They just don't fight each other. You know, I just can't stand this division. This division has made me sick over the years. You know, over the year, I just don't know what happened to this division. And as I pull it up here on the screen, you know, you got Triple G, you know, who's still pretty much at the top because he's done the most. And he's the biggest star out of this division. All right, you got Chris Eubank, who is just doing whatever he wants to do. You got Janibek Munguia, who's pretty much doing whatever the hell he wants to do over there on Golden Boy. You got Carlos Adames, who's willing to he's willing to want to fight the best. All right, but I don't know who wants to fight this guy at this point. You know, after he lost, you know, at 154. He's come up really good up at 160. And, you know, I think he switched trainers and, he looks like a very improved fighter. I mean, even when he was a prospect, we was watching him before that defeat as a prospect, you know, he looked very promising at the prospect. But when he lost that fight to Pat Chisera, you know, he goes up and, you know, he didn't go up right away, but he had a few fights. And he looked great against Derevchenko, and he looked great against Montiel, right, recently. And we want to see him fight the top dudes at this point, right? So you got him who's a victim to me. He's a victim right now. He's actually a victim at 160, right? And then you got Janibek, who just had his fight. I was just speaking on him last week. He just had his fight. And he didn't look good against Denzel Bentley. Well, you know what? Let me not say that, because I said that the other day. I said, it's not that he didn't look good. He just didn't look like the monster that we thought he was. You know? We was just talking about this last week. He fights Denzel Bentley, who Felix Cash just destroyed, right? I think last year. Felix Cash destroyed Denzel Bentley. He just knocked him out. He stopped him in a few rounds. And, you know, Janibek goes the distance for him. you know, and some people even think that the fight was closer than the scorecards. I mean, I definitely did. You know, the 118-110 scorecard was a little ridiculous, you know, and I thought the 116-112 scorecards were pretty fair, in my opinion. But he didn't look like this killer that, you know, the boogeyman that everybody believed him to be. And now everybody's calling him out. That's how boxing works, right? Boxing works funny like that. And now everybody's gunning for this guy. Carlos Adames called him out. Felix Cash called him out. And, you know, some people were, because I read the comments. I don't just read the comments in my videos. I read the comments in other people's videos. So if I watch somebody else on YouTube or I watch a fight on YouTube, I love to read the comments and see what people are saying and seeing what people are thinking. And people believe that Janibek took an easy time on him because he wanted to look beatable. He wanted people to be willing to get in the ring with him. I don't believe that. You know, I mean, I just feel that he struggled against a boxer that was pretty good boxer. You know, now if that's true and he took the night off because he wanted to go easy, he wanted to get the rounds off, then fine. But I don't personally believe that Bentley was the best fighter he fought. You know, I think he's one of the best fighters that he fought, but I don't necessarily believe that. You know, I think Janibek, I've said this in other videos in the past. I felt that Demetrius Andrade, you know, in the beginning when Janibek was, you know, last year before the Zach Parker stuff, I felt like Demetrius Andrade should have fought him because once people start saying that you're ducking someone and people are attaching a fighter to your name and he is your mandatory, you know, you fought plenty of your mandatories. Once people start saying the duck word, take them on, especially if the fighter that you're looking to face in Canelo and Jamal Charlo, I'm sorry. If all of these guys don't want to fight you, Canelo, Triple G, Jamal Charlo, fight your mandatory, the one mandatory that people respect that you're facing, you know? Now, I don't think the move to fight Zach Parker was bad. Reason was because Zach Parker is another guy that looks pretty dangerous up at 168. He's bigger. He's coming off 5 knockout wins. All right. He's a good boxer too. Right. And he is at the division that Canelo is at. You win that fight against Zach Parker, at least puts you in position to fight Canelo Alvarez. It'll be his mandatory. Now, if Canelo chooses to dump the belt or whatever, then that's different. But fighting Janibek at 168 really gains you nothing. You'll just be fighting a guy that people feel could possibly beat you. All right. But now he has nothing. Demetrius Andrade fought neither one of them guys. And at the end of the day, I don't even know what Andrade is doing at this point. So that's another fighter at 160 that I just, you know, I mean, technically he's not at 168 because he hasn't fought there yet. So I don't know what he's doing. So you have this division where you have all these guys that are undefeated that are scared to fight each other because they're hoping they get an opportunity to fight a bigger name. I think we can all agree that everybody would probably fight Triple G at this point. All right. I don't believe Triple G is being ducked. Like no one's ducking Triple G at this point. Not at this point. Because he's older and he has a name and there's money in the fight. Right. But the actual news right now is that Jaime Munguia has finally been ordered to fight Janibek. I mean, this is something that should have been ordered when Demetrius Andrade had the belt. I mean, isn't Munguia the number one for the WBC as well under Jamal Charlo? I might be wrong. I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe that for a while now, maybe it was Chris Eubank. Let me pull up the WBC rankings real quick. I believe that Munguia has been like the #1 guy, maybe in like at least 2 different sanctioning bodies at this point. It's like, what is this guy doing? So I know that they try to work out. I believe they try to work out Jamal Charlo fight, and I think the business part of it kind of messed that up because they wanted it to be exclusive for Showtime, and the Zone and Golden Boy was not going to buy that. And they're not going to do no dual fight unless it's going to be a pay-per-view, and I don't know. I don't know how that didn't work out, but it didn't work out. Business messed that one up. All right. But I don't think that fight happens. I think it could happen. I noticed that Janibek said the other day that he's not interested in the Munguia fight now, and that he's just looking to fight other champions. Is that a duck? Is that a duck? Let me know in the comments. Is that a duck? Because I understand that Munguia had no interest in fighting Janibek before. But I don't know how that's gonna work. All right. I don't know if they're gonna jump on that opportunity and making that fight. But Munguia wants Triple G. Munguia calls out Triple G after his fight the other day. I'm not gonna even mention the guy he beat up today, Korea. Munguia beats this guy the other day, right? Stops him in 2 or 3 rounds, and he calls out Triple G. Says he wants Triple G in May, right? Now, not on Cinco de Mayo, because I believe Canelo's gonna probably take that date. But Munguia called out Triple G, right? And look, man, Munguia is. I like Munguia. I mean, as far as like his fights, they're entertaining. They're very entertaining to watch. But I don't really know how good he is because he's just continuously not like challenging himself. Let me pull him up real quick. Jaime Munguia. All right, so I love the Toriano Johnson fight. That was the fight. That fight was a good fight. But all of these other guys, he destroyed Saddam Ali, which makes sense. Saddam Ali is a welterweight. At the most, he's a welterweight. He just jumped on the Miguel Cotto opportunity. Who wouldn't? I thought Liam Smith did a good job against Jaime. I think Jaime won, but I think Liam Smith did a lot better than what those scorecards are saying right here. Dennis Hogan beat Jaime Munguia, in my opinion. I thought that was an 8-4 win for Dennis Hogan, and I think he got robbed. Toriano fight was great. That was an excellent war. Like, if you were into this phone booth battles, that was a great fight. But all these other fights here, I like the fact that Jaime is staying active. I will say that. I think they're doing a good job. This is what Jerron Boots Ennis should be doing right now. When you're young, in your younger 20s, these guys should be fighting at least 2 to 3 times a year. So I think Golden Boy is doing a great job, but these level of fighters are not that good. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't know how good he really is. I'm still leaning towards Triple G at beating him. But I think Jaime does well against all of these fighters, whether it's Carlos Adames, whether it's Janibek. I think any fighter Jaime looks good against. I just don't know if he beats them all. I don't know if he beats them all. Eubank Jr. is up there. I just hope it's one of these guys at this point. But I hate the division. I honestly, whenever we're talking about, it's like, I've never seen, let me not say never, because you have the welterweight division, but this division right now, you got a bunch of very calculated fighters, or they're managed or promoted by a bunch of very calculated promoters or managers. They are very calculated, they are very selective on who they fight and when they fight them. Gennady Golovkin and his team they're very aware that everybody's willing to jump in the ring right now. Similar to Canelo, they want a payday. They want a payday. And Golovkin looks a lot more vulnerable now because he's older. He didn't have a good performance against Canelo in that trilogy. He finished strong, but outside of him finishing strong, he didn't look good. He finished strong, and I give a lot of that credit to Canelo slowing down, but he looked very beatable in that fight. And all of these guys, Eubank would have never stood a chance against Munguia Golovkin. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I like all of these fighters, but I don't believe that Eubank, Munguia, even Charlo, even Adames, I don't believe that these guys would have beaten Golovkin in his prime. Even by the rematch of Canelo and Golovkin, I don't even think in that point these fighters would have beaten Golovkin. Now with the change in coaching and the aging, of course, I think they all have a chance of beating Golovkin. But overall, no, I do not believe that these guys, even in their primes, had a chance of beating Golovkin. Now, I don't know what happens here. I think before we move on, I will say I do believe that Munguia and Golovkin is very, very realistic. All right? I do believe that's very realistic for Golovkin. All right? Now, Golovkin has a man, Falcao. I believe that's his mandatory for one of this is the Brazilian fighter that beat Patrice Volney. I remember watching that fight. So he has to deal with that fight for now. But as far as the big fight there, I think it's going to be really between Golovkin and either Munguia or Chris Eubank. I think Chris Eubank can really get in a big fight because of his name, just the buzz of his name right now, just off the strength, off that whole counter bend situation and the way it was promoted. I think Chris Eubank gets a big fight soon in 2023. That's my prediction. He either gets one of these guys in here in this mix, either Jaime Munguia. I know he's going to be fighting Liam Smith soon, but I think he's gearing up for a big fight. Jaime Munguia just had a fight, so he's gearing up for a big fight. Gennady Golovkin has to deal with that Falcao fight, which is actually not a bad opponent. So if Golovkin is now on his A game, and he is aged at this point, could be a rough night for him. Nothing's really easy for Golovkin at this point. All right? But we just got to wait and see, But I do believe that Jermall Charlo, being that he's out the ring for so long, right? It's been a year and a half since we've seen him in the ring. I believe that Jermall Charlo, no matter what, goes into a tune-up at this point, unless he fights a specific fighter that I was told that I'm not supposed to say his name. All right. But I've talked about that before, a fight that I was told that was going to be the next fight for Jermall Charlo. I don't know if that's still in play. All right. But I was told, and I promised that I wouldn't say that fighter's name just in case that fight is still in the works. I don't know if that fight is still in the works because Jermall hasn't been in the ring for a while. All right. But Jermall, I know there was a fight that was on the table for Jermall Charlo. I don't know if that's still an option, but being that Jermall hasn't been in the ring for so long, I feel like Jermall is due for a tune-up. All right. I just hope that if Jermall has a tune-up, that he has a tune-up and have the real fight 2 to 3 months later. This whole tune up and go another 6 months like this Keith Thurman thing. You know when Keith Thurman came back and fought Mario Barrios, and he was like, yo, I'm ready. You know, he cut his hair. Yo, I'm staying fit. I'm not blowing up in between fights. I want to get another fight in. Like all that talk, and we don't know where he's at. But we're going to talk about that briefly. All right. But that's how I feel. Jamal Charlo, I don't know. But I don't believe he fights any of these guys next. But I do feel like he has a tune-up. And maybe some point in 2023, we get a big fight for him. But I do believe Chris Eubank and Munguia is probably going to be one of those two to fight Gennady Golovkin. Probably most likely Munguia, but we'll see. You just never know. I think Chris Eubank is definitely due for a big fight in 2023, you know, because of his name. All right. No, I don't be having. Wait, hold on. Let me read the comments. Brian Garcia says that I'll be having tea with her. Nah, I'm not connected in any way. I do know some people. I do know a few people, but I'm not very well connected. And I actually don't want to be that connected because I feel like I would have to be biased in order to keep relationships with people in the sport. And I don't want that. You know, I kind of just want to have, I want my own brand. I don't like following around people. I think the people that are the most connected on these for the content creators, I feel like a lot of them have to have a certain bias in their content. You hear it a lot with a lot of channels and stuff like that. So I don't want to be like that. Like I want to be able to say what I want to say. And if people get mad at me, so what? I don't care. I have my own content. I don't work for you. You're not giving me no tickets. You don't kind of just want to keep doing my own thing. All right. And keep it real in every video I do. But I know some people. I do know some people. All right. So anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about, since we're talking about 160, we might as well briefly talk about the 147 division real quick. And basically, look, it's just like 160. You know, Stanionis was ordered by the WBA to fight Vergil Ortiz Jr. Right? That's the news of the day. As we're still waiting to see who Spence is going to fight. You know, I think Rashidi Ellis tweeted something about a fight coming up. Stanionis has tweeted something about a big fight coming up. Jaron Ennis has a fight coming up. I don't know if these guys are going to fight each other. I don't know what's happening. You know, right before I went live, I couldn't listen to it all because I already was scheduled to jump on live. But I was just listening to an interview with Fight Hype. And Stanionis is talking about how he felt about the news that Spence and Crawford was not going to happen and how he already previously stepped aside to allow those two to make that fight. Well, I heard about half of the interview, and Stanionis says he is not going to step aside again. Now, I don't know what that means, all right? But it could mean that, like, he's saying, like, listen, if it comes to my turn and my opportunity to take the fight, I will be taking the fight. But being that he is the world WBA, because we have two titles. We have the super, which Spence holds, which is the real one, the real title. And then we have the junior title, the world title, which Stanionis holds right now at the welterweight division. All right. And now the WBA has ordered him to fight Vergil Ortiz Jr. Okay. And that is for the junior title. That's not even for the real title. But he's already, this is the problem with all of this. He was the first mandatory for Errol Spence's, one of Errol Spence's titles. All right. We know we have Thurman. We know we have Jaron Boots Ennis. But Stanionis has been there. And he's already stepped aside to allow those two to fight. And we're talking about Spence and Bud. So now that they're not fighting, you meaning to tell me you're going to order him to fight somebody else when he's already been ordered to fight the current champion and he stepped aside? Nothing, not for nothing, but this is pretty messed up. Like, what are they doing? In the meantime, the WBO should be ordering Virgil Ortiz Jr. to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. That should be ordered immediately. Because Terrence Crawford has not fought and defended his WBO title since he fought his last mandatory in Sean Porter. And it's been a year. So Virgil Ortiz is just about due for his title shot. Now, look, and I'm going to just make this clear because I understand that there's a lot of biases when it comes to this division. A lot of these fans, they're not even biased for the fighters at this point. They just biased for like certain networks. It's annoying, but it is what it is. You know, it's weird because I don't feel like, you know, I understand that the business practices with certain promoters and networks work a little different than others. But at the end of the day, I don't like I don't like blaming the fighters unless the fighter is the source of the issue of a fight not happening. You know, if the fighter is the direct source of the problem, then I go at the fighter. But if the fighter is just, you know, they're doing what they have to do because of a sanctioning body or because of the promoter or the networks, I like to go directly at the network and the promoter because usually they're the issue on why these fights can't happen. I believe most of these fighters, most of them, with the exception of Keith Thurman, I think most of them want to actually fight each other. Most of them do. All right. So with that being said, I hate that Bud and Spence didn't happen. Not only because it was the one fight that I wanted to see, the number one fight that I wanted to see, but also because it's held up everybody else's career this year. All right. Stanionis said in this interview on Fight Hype that he was going to be on the undercard of Spence versus Bud, and he was looking to fight the winner. Right? You have Boots Ennis, who basically had the Castillo-Clayton fight, which only lasted like a few seconds or a few minutes, and he hasn't been active at all for the rest of the year. I mean, this guy is at 25 years old. Yo, he should be fighting 2-3 times a year, minimum two. He should really be fighting at least 3 times a year. All right? He only fought once this whole year. He's just sitting around waiting. What's going on over there? You know, like, what's happening? Rashidi Ellis, he really wasn't active. I don't even know what. I mean, at least he's with PBC now, so hopefully things happen and work for him. I know he had a recent fight, and he has another fight coming up, which is good. But yo, I hate watching these guys, excuse me, in their best year, the prime of their years, just getting wasted away because of promotional issues, because of network issues, because of the politics. You know, that's one thing I will say about Jaime Munguia. I say this, and I don't like his resume, but I do like the fact that he's staying active. Golden Boy is keeping that boy in the ring all of the time. 2-3 fights a year. They're not playing around. I like that. So I'll give him credit for that. And I want him to step up. Just like I want Boots to step up. I want Virgil Ortiz to step up. You know, but at this point, what I want, since Bud and Spence didn't happen, and I think it could happen still, but if it does happen, let it happen at 154 at this point. You're holding up the division. You know what I'm saying? Go up to 154 and fight. You know, if Spence, which I believe that everything is still getting held up. I don't believe that Spence stays at 154. I mean, 147. I don't believe he does. I think all this undisputed thing, I think that's gone. For them to fight at 147 for undisputed is done. I'm not going into whose fault. I already addressed that. I'm not going back to it. I think that's done. If they ever are going to fight, they're going to fight at 154, most likely. All right. And that if that happens, that's great. But let's not I don't want to no longer like hold up this division. I hated it when Manny Pacquiao and Floyd was in the division because, you know, you had all these good fighters that were just kind of waiting to see what Floyd or Pacquiao was going to pick. You know, and I don't want that to happen with this generation with Bud and Spence. You know, Spence holds 3 belts. I don't know what's going on with this Keith Thurman thing. You know, there's news that came out. I was going to talk about this in another video, but Keith Thurman, allegedly, according to who put out the news? In a cedar. He basically said that Keith Thurman asked for $10 million to fight Jaron Ennis. Now, when Keith said it, or when Bob said it, or when Crawford's side said that Keith Thurman overpriced himself and asked for $10 million for the Bud fight, I didn't really go in on that because Keith basically said that's not true. But now that it's happening again and it's kind of becoming a pattern, I kind of believe it. I do. I actually believe it. I believe it. Because Keith, based on his, like, the way he's been active or inactive the last few years, I just don't believe Keith wants this anymore. I think Keith wants a big payday before he leaves. And I've said this for the last at least a couple of years, you know. I think I might have even said this before the Pacquiao fight, you know. I just don't know if Keith wants it like that anymore, you know. I actually been saying this since the marriage. I've been saying that since then. You know, I just felt in certain interviews that he's had, it just don't seem like this is the guy that I loved. You know, Keith was my favorite welterweight at some point after Floyd and Pacquiao because Keith was saying all of the things that I wanted to hear. Now, even though he didn't stop Mario Barrios in that fight, I know Tank stopped him at a lower weight. I get it. But I still was very impressed with how well Keith boxed. All right. He didn't stop him, but I like what I've seen from him as a boxer. Round by round, he was winning the fight pretty easily, you know, outside of him getting hurt at some point. You know, I think he got hurt to the body again, which is pretty much every Keith Thurman fight at this point. But Keith, to me, you know, at this point, he's just looking for a really big fight. And Spence does not want to fight him. You know, Spence doesn't want to give him specifically the opportunity. And I believe that is because Spence is just a little bitter off of some of, you know, he really wanted Keith at one point, you know, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Some of the things Keith has said, I don't know. Spence doesn't want the fight, but I don't believe Spence stays at 154. It's just too many. 147. It's just too many responsibilities, and I think he, you know, I believe he really wanted to fight. I believe that Bud really wanted to fight. You know, I think a lot of it is because of business, and that's why we didn't get the fight. So anyway, with all that being said, all I want is for these fighters to fight each other at this point. Bud and Spence, I still want the fight, but I don't care for it to be undisputed at this point. And I don't think it's realistic that it will be undisputed. I think we're way past that because there's too many mandatories on the line. And you got guys like Stanionis who wants to fight. All right, guys like Boots, who really wants to fight. I don't think Boots, the one thing is when you talk about Bud and people like I see people online that likes to pull up past interviews with Bud and Spence and they'll pull certain parts of the interviews to basically make their point, you know, push whatever point they're trying to make. that Bud was even ducking or that Spence was ducking. I noticed that people do that. The one thing about Boots Ennis is that he has been adamant all this time about fighting the both of those guys. Like, it's no change. You know how Virgil Ortiz was like, you know, when it came to fighting Boots, he's like, oh, I'm not really looking to fight. I'll fight anyone, but I'm not really like Boots. When it came to Virgil Ortiz, I'll fight him. When it comes to Crawford, I'll fight him. When it comes to Spence, I'll fight him. Every single he's the only person that I feel right now that there's nothing you can pull to say that this guy is bluffing. I think he really believes that he's better than everybody. So with that being said, I want these guys like Boots and Virgil and Stanionis and Rashidi Ellis and whoever else, you know, Rocha, Alexis Rocha, whoever else that's in the division, I want them all to get their opportunity because I feel like these guys that are seasoned, they're all looking for that big payday because they've done it. They've done it. They've been around. So I understand them from a business standpoint, but it's hurting the division and it's slowing everything up. It's slowing all the money up. It's slowing up all the potential fights that could be made because all of them are waiting to see what these two are going to do. It's no longer Pacquiao and Mayweather doing it. It's Spence and Bud. They need to decide what they're going to do. If they're not going to fight these young up-and-coming guys, then go do your own thing somewhere else because you guys are slowing down everything else. All right. I think Bud did recently say that he would fight Boots. At this point, when it comes to everybody, I'll see it when the fight is scheduled. When these guys are getting to the ring, I'll believe it then. All right. But I'm just kind of tired of just the holdup of it all. I'm just frustrated, you know, and I don't have the same desire for that Spence and Bud fight that I did. Like, I kind of lost a little interest in it. You know, I did. All right. All right. So let's talk about the final topic of the day. Ryan Garcia and Tank. I know I was online when everybody blasted this whole Tank versus Ryan Garcia thing as if it was official. All right. I saw it the other day. I saw the reports. I saw their tweets. I felt a little excited because it sounds like they're working on things. There's communication there. So I think that's great. Do I believe the fight happens? What have I always said consistently? I felt like this fight never will not happen before 2024. That has always been my stance. It's been my stance for the last year. I don't believe this fight happens because I believe that once there's like a non-title big name fight, I think that they like to build it up and feed the two fighters you know, solid opponents, but winner fights where they're going to be the favorite to win going into the fight. And I feel that 2023 was just a little too soon. You know, as much as I want it, but I just didn't feel like it was going to happen. Now, they have agreed. They're going to both have to, well, let me not call it tune-up. Tank Davis is scheduled to fight Hector Garcia January 7th. Showtime pay-per-view. It's a pay-per-view, y'all. It is what it is. Tank is never going back to not having pay-per-views. I've said this about Tank. I've said this about Wilder. I've said this about Errol Spence. Those non-pay-per-view fight days are done. All right. We're getting one every single fight. All of them is going to be pay-per-views. It doesn't matter who they fight. But the Hector Garcia fight is not a tune-up. It might be a tune-up to a lot of people compared to Ryan, but this is not a tune-up at all. All right. After watching that Chris Colbert fight, I did see Hector. Hector's had a fight since then too. Let me pull it up real quick. This is not a tune-up fight. All right. Let me just let's say that. All right. I don't know who Ryan's gonna fight, but okay, he fought Roger Gutierrez. Okay. He fought Roger Gutierrez, and that was an actual title fight. In a fight he won clearly, which was expected, you know. I don't what are my thoughts on this fight? I mean, I think Tank is gonna beat Hector Garcia because I think Hector is good, but I think, I think Tank is not Chris Colbert. You know, he's just not Chris Colbert, and I'm assuming this fight is gonna be at 135. I think Hector Garcia, has he even fought above 130? No, he hasn't. He's mainly a career featherweight that recently moved up to. He moved up to super featherweight last year. All right, so his last 4 fight has been at super featherweight, but he hasn't even fought at lightweight yet. All right, remember Tank is fighting at 135, and him and Ryan is basically going to fight at 135. Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis agreed to a catch weight at 136. Ryan's a fool for agreeing to that. Ryan's going to be drained for that fight. Ryan, I'm assuming this next fight he has in January, I would hope that I would hope he's going to come down for this fight here just to even see if he can fight at 136 anymore, because his last 2 fights were at 140. All right. He took a year off. He fought Emmanuel Tago early this year. All right. And then he came back and beat Javier Fortuna. And they were both at 140. And this is a young guy that's still growing. So now he has to come back down to 136. I don't know, man. I mean, look, man. Tank has fought at 140. And he's won a regular belt at 140 by being and stopping Mario Barrios. It makes me feel a little bit, I don't know. Like, I don't like the fact that there's this kind of catch weight there when you already have won a junior title at 140. It makes me feel like when it comes to Tank, it honestly makes me feel like there's some lack of confidence there. Or they just don't want to, they just want to be a little bit careful. But yeah, being careful and cautious it shows a little lack of confidence there. Because the guy fights at 140, and that he's bigger, and we all know that Tank has already fought and won a title at that division. So I know Tank is currently fighting at 135. Cool. Right? Tank's last 2 fights was at 135. So I get it. But the catch weight, I don't know. I've always thought that Tank would knock out Ryan Garcia. And I just feel that the 136 catch weight is just too low. Ryan should have probably agreed to 138, maybe squeeze it down to 137. But when I heard 136, I was like, well, damn, that's a little too much, man. I don't know. You know, Ryan's already fought at the division and he's improving. So I think the fight is a better fight right now because he's definitely improving. Goosen is definitely working on some things with him. I still think he has flaws for sure, but I've seen the improvements in his game since he switched over to Goosen. You know what I'm saying? Boxing Gyms, what's up, bro? Man, Boxing Gyms is in the chat. What's up, dog? Appreciate you checking in. Make sure you guys subscribe to him. I mean, y'all, I'm sure all you guys are subscribed to him already. All right, that's my guy. So anyway, yeah, look, I like Hector Garcia. I think it's a good fight for Tank. I think it's definitely a better fight than Rolly Romero is. I think that Rolly fight was hyped, regardless of what Tank is saying. Tank is saying a lot on social media these days. He's being really sneaky on there. In fact, he's not even being sneaky anymore. I seen his response to someone on Twitter about he's basically just going in on the issues he has with Leonard Ellaby and Floyd. Like they're not promoting his next fight. They're not saying a word about his next fight. I don't know if Tank is with Floyd anymore. I don't know what is going on with them. I don't know if he's working directly with Showtime. I have no idea what's happening, but if he's having fights with Showtime, because this fight with Ryan, if it happens, it's going to be a joint DAZN Showtime pay-per-view thing. Right. So I know that's happening. I know that Hector Garcia is a Showtime pay-per-view fight. So he's still with Showtime. I just don't know if he's working with Floyd anymore. I don't know if he's with Leonard Ellaby. I don't know what's going on over there. But what's the name? Tank is being very vocal on there. He's doing his tweet delete thing. He tweets things and he deletes it. But he's basically saying that there's definitely issues between Leonard Ellaby and Floyd, and that Leonard bet against him when it came to the Rolly Romero fight, that he overheard, not he overheard, but I guess some of his family overheard Leonard Ellaby saying that Tank was going to get knocked out by Rolly Romero. All right. Now, I know at the time, before that fight happened, there were a lot of people that thought Rolly Romero was going to actually knock out. Let me not say a lot, but there were people out there that said it. There were people on YouTube that said it. There were people on social media that said it. I wasn't one of those people. I thought this guy was going to get lined up with a left hand, and that's exactly what happened. I always thought the same about Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan is improving, though. All right. I think he's definitely improving. But I think the strengths that Ryan would have if they were to fight at 140, they're being stripped away because of the fact that he's going to be drained to fight Tank Davis, but I do like Hector Garcia. I do like the Hector Garcia fight. I think that's a fight that Tank has to be on his A game. He can't go into the fight thinking that it's going to be, one of his weaker guys. It's not. It's actually a pretty good fight. I do believe that, Tank being a seasoned fighter as lightweight at this point, at lightweight, and being that Hector, this is going to be his first fight at lightweight. And then again, I'm assuming it's going to be at lightweight because Tank has been fighting there. Hector is at 130. He's never fought above 130, right? He's only fought at 130 for the past 2 years. So I like Tank for the fight. I'm not sleeping on Hector Garcia. This is not a tune-up. This is a real fight. But I got Tank winning the fight. And I have Tank winning against Ryan Garcia if they choose to fight, especially at a catch weight. I'm not going to lie. Ryan's last fight, even though it's against a guy that I knew he would knock out, I still feel that there are improvements in his game that made this fight a lot more even than it was a year or two ago, But I still have Tank winning the fight, But I like Ryan's chances a lot more than I did in recent years. I think he has more of a chance. All right. This is just a fight with big names, not really a fight that really proves either one is the best, you know, because even though these two are going to fight each other, neither one of them has fought Lomachenko. Neither one of them has fought Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, guys that actually held titles, you know, guys that were actually unified. You know what I'm saying? They're kind of like the two popular guys that are really good. I don't want to take anything away from their talent, especially Tank, because I am a big Tank fan. Believe it or not, I'm a huge Tank fan. It's just that I don't like the people he faces for the most part. You know, I'm a huge Tank fan. Don't get it twisted. I love Tank Davis, and I would probably want him to win against most of these guys. But you know, the way that he's been moving, it's kind of like, yo, I want to see how good you are against those type of fighters. And I just haven't seen that from him. Another thing you got to remember, he has this trial coming up. I don't know if that might disrupt things with this fight. Maybe not so much with Hector Garcia, but maybe with Ryan Garcia. Now, when they say it's done on Twitter, most of the time it's like agreeing on the fight. Like we agreed. You know, we agreed means Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. Those guys agreed to fight each other. And look what happened with that. I still don't feel the fight happens. I would love for it to fight for it to happen, but there's too many things that could derail this fight from happening. One being both of their upcoming fights. I don't know who Ryan is going to face, but he's going to have one in January. I don't know. You know, I know Tank is fighting Hector Garcia, and even though I think Tank is going to win the fight, you just never really know. Plus, the trial, I don't know how that trial is going to go. Hopefully, it goes well with Tank, but you know, whatever happens, happens. You know, but there's just too many things that could derail things. And even though they made an agreement today, when it comes to the politics end, it doesn't mean by the time they decide to actually fight that it works out. They can still have a falling out because of the politics later. All right. So they could agree to whatever today, but they could still have a falling out later. All right. All right. So listen, that's my stance on it all. I'm just going to read a few comments. I'm going to go up a little bit. Brian says Rolly was really a special ed kid. That's messed up. Taylor is a rematch with Catterall first before moving to 147. Yeah, 140 out the door. I do have to do a breakdown for that fight, and I will do one at some point. I have like notes already made for that fight. And I look forward to talking about that fight because you know what I thought Jack Catterall wasn't. I didn't do a breakdown for that fight, but I've said in other videos leading up to the fight that I didn't think that was going to be an easy fight for Josh Taylor. And it wasn't. And it's a fight that I thought Catterall won. I know Josh has changed who he's working with, you know. I don't think the second fight is going to be easy neither. I don't think that was an accidental, like, outcome. You know, Catterall is a very tricky fighter. He's a very crafty fighter. I've seen Taylor getting outboxed by Regis Prograis and Victor Postol. Regardless of how the fight ended, I've seen fights where Josh Taylor is getting outworked or outboxed, and then he had to make the fight very physical in order to come back and win. Victor Postol, that's exactly what happened. He was getting outboxed from the outside against Victor Postol. Regis Prograis, same thing. He had to get very physical with Regis Prograis. And even though Regis Prograis held his own on the inside, Josh, being a bigger guy, did the better work overall when they were in close range. You know, he had to be very physical with Regis Prograis, who was a smaller man. And he did it again with Jack Catterall towards the end of that fight. When Jack started to slow down, yes, Taylor did come back and take over. But I don't believe for 1 minute that that was just some fluke. Catterall won that fight. And This is not going to be an easy fight. I don't think Josh Taylor just runs through him. He's going to struggle early in that fight again, even if he wins. And I believe he's going to win. I think he's going to find a way to pull it out. I don't know if he stops him. You know, I actually hope he wins. I don't know. When I listen to people talk about Catterall like he's just some bum, and that was just an accident, you know? Boxing Jim says if Ryan is patient, he has more of a shot. But if he's following Tank around the ring and aggressive, he's going to catch a left hand that may put him out. Same thing that Rolly caught. You know, I think that's the same thing that's going to happen with him because he is very aggressive. We know Ryan is aggressive. You know, you of all people, I've seen your videos on him. You know, he's very aggressive, you know, and he can't be marching. He can't be marching Tank down like the way he's done with Emmanuel Tago and this what's it, Javier Fortuna. You know, he can't take that same approach. He can't take the approach he took against Luke Campbell. He's gonna pay for it. And Tank hits hard. Tank stopped Mario Barrios, who Keith Thurman could not stop. And Tank was losing on points, possibly before he got, you know, started getting the knockdowns. So Tank is a guy that could be down on points. You know, I think I gave Rolly the first 3 rounds when he fought Rolly. It doesn't matter. If you walk into the right shot, same thing with Leo Santa Cruz. These guys were doing well against Tank. And then they made that one mistake that caused them to fight because Tank will knock you out with one punch. You know, he has like one of the highest KO ratios. His power is real. Say what you want, think he's overrated. That's cool. He didn't fight the best. That's cool. I'm not going to argue any of that. But his power is definitely real. You know, don't sleep on him. He does take a lot of shots sometimes, and I do think he also fights on the level of his opponents for sure. You know, but we'll see. You know, hopefully a fight happens so we can stop talking about it and we can actually see it. You know, Boxing Pound for Pound says Boxing Gyms. I see Tank with more of a chance of countering Ryan and KOing him. I don't see Tank outboxing Ryan. I can see Ryan winning on points if it goes to a decision. Absolutely. I agree with you with that. I thought this out already because I've been thinking about it the last few days. I'm thinking the same with you. I think Tank can definitely lose on points to a lot of fighters. I think he loses to Shakur Stevenson on points. I think he loses to Devin Haney on points. If these fights go to a decision, Tank is not beating him on points. But what Tank wins is his chances of knocking you out are extremely high. And that's anyone from 135. I wouldn't say everyone at 140, but definitely anyone at 135. He has a very high chance of knocking you out. If Ryan's going to come down to 136, there's a good chance he might get knocked out. All right. Yeah, so you guys are just going back and forth. I see you guys going back and forth with the debate here. Yeah, I like the fight. I hope it happens, but I still want to see those. It's like we just missed all of it. You know what? It's like, yo, I've thought this out. I feel like 135 is like, and I'm also including the guys that moved up to 140, like Tio and what's this other dude? Ryan. I feel like there's 2 different leagues when it comes to 135. I'm like, you got the league of the guys that's like, you know, ranking themselves up and they're going through, you know, the rankings and fighting, you know, the best, fighting the best, or the top 2 guys or whatever. So I feel like you got a group of fighters that are actually like ranked and fighting each other. And then you got like these 2 where they're like they're in their own place. And I've said this, and you guys heard me say it. Those 2 fighters are in a whole nother league on their own. They're on a whole different planet because they're just fighting off fame. Like, I got more followers than you. You know what I'm saying? I do more numbers than you. I do, Yo, there's more people. I fill out arenas. The other guys over here, they're talking like, yo, I can beat you. You know, it's more like they're really competing with each other. Where these guys are like, yo, I'm a name, I'm a brand. You know, Tank definitely fills out arenas. It's no lie about that. There's no joke with that. People go out to see Tank. He's filling out arenas. That's not a joke. That's a real thing. And his tickets are not cheap neither. You know, the celebrities are there, so I get it. But as far as like the titles and stuff like that, and he's basically picking who he chooses to fight at this point. And Ryan has the sponsorships. You know, he's in commercials and stuff. You know, he does have the following and stuff like that, the social media. You know what I'm saying? So they have their own thing going on over here. And then you have these guys. You got the dudes like the Lomachenkos, the Devin Haney's, the Shakur Stevensons, the Teofimo Lopez. That's really like, they're not taking no easy fights. You know, they're more about the legacy and stuff. You know, Tank, they had to pad and promote him being like a 3-division champion when he's just picking up junior title wins and stuff like that. You know, he's not unifying or nothing like that. So look, it is what it is. But, you know, since they are those two dudes with the big names, since they are that, they should fight each other. They might as well. You know, I mean, they don't do joint pay-per-views much these days. So if they're going to do one, that is definitely worth it. But I don't know if they're as big. I honestly don't feel like the pay-per-view is going to be as great as they talking, you know, and that's not me hating or nothing like that. I'm just being serious. I don't know if there's any proof that this does the pay-per-view numbers. For them to have a joint network pay-per-view, you know, I think of like maybe like a major Canelo fight, maybe, or like Wilder and Fury. But I don't know if these guys are going to do that kind of numbers. I mean, I don't even think Ryan hasn't been on a pay-per-view. His fights are just on the zone, like regular the zone. And Tank has been on pay-per-views, but his numbers ain't always too good. You know, I don't think his recent ones were good. I don't know. We just gotta wait and see. All right, man. So look, I'm gonna get on out of here, man. Be on the lookout. I am gonna do a video real quick on Dillian White and Jermaine Franklin. All right, I'm gonna try to get that out today. I've done my film study. I think the whole reason why I haven't done that, like, because I was already familiar with Jermaine Franklin. I think the reason why I wasn't in a rush to do the video is because I just don't know where Dillian White is at this point, you know? And I feel that, like, yo, if there's any slight decline in his game overall, I can see him losing. But I don't think Jermaine Franklin is really that good neither, you know? So it's like, I know Jermaine is undefeated, you know? I think he's like a top 5 American prospect right now. But the best person he beat, it was a questionable win. You know, I was watching some of that fight the other day against Jerry Forrest, and I was like, very close fight. Dillian White, he's 35 years old. He just got knocked out by an uppercut again, like 2 fights ago. Before that, he got knocked out by another uppercut. I don't know where Dillian White is at this point, you know, but if Dillian White could find a way to pull this fight out, he will get at least one more big fight, and that's possibly with Anthony Joshua. I don't know. All right, but we just got to wait and see. But I will do a quick prediction video for that. And we'll go from there. All right. So anyway, please subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification button as well, so you'll be alerted whenever I drop new content. Hit the thumbs up if you like the content. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace. Have a good day.